Hello, my Aquarius friends. This is Kristen Redman, astrological intuitive, and today we are going to be talking about the astrological influences that are going to be making an impact on you for this upcoming year of 2022. And what a year it's set to be in so many ways. You know, we have Saturn, the planet of lessons and restriction and such, but it ultimately brings us amazing results out of our hard work. It's going to be finishing up the tour of your sign where it hasn't been for 30 years, and this started in around Christmas time of 2020, and it will end at the end of this year as well. And Saturn, what it's been doing as it's been going through Uranus, is it's been growing and maturing you in ways that you haven't seen really, obviously, in 30 years. But and yes, some lessons have come with it, and yes, some restriction and rules and boundaries and things you've had to put in place, which is very tough. It's very tough for Aquarius because you're such an independent sign that having these restrictions put on you has been incredibly difficult, but you're seeing the benefit of that. And ultimately, it's setting some amazing new goals for you that are going to be making an impact on the foundation of you that's going to be carrying you forward for the next 30 years. It's so much more authentic to you than you even realized before. Shifting priorities and making your personal life is the main focus of this year. I don't necessarily see it being a year of being focused on others so much as it is being focused on yourself and making sure that you have yourself steady to move forward. And Jupiter is bringing you some amazing things in terms of helping you to shore up your self-worth, to reassess your values, to bring in new opportunities that have been lacking in other ways otherwise. So let's get into that. Why don't we talk about that? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about money before we talk about all this darn restriction that Saturn's been doing to you. Let's look at the positives here, right? Let's start with this here. I mean, obviously the restrictions aren't that terrible either. I mean, really, you're seeing how you're building things as well too. But let's just focus on what Jupiter's trying to do. Saturn's making you work your butt off to get it, where Jupiter is the planet that just brings you blind luck. It brings you amazing opportunities out of nowhere. And so Jupiter works in 12-year cycles, where Saturn, like I was just talking about, takes 30 years to make its revolution around the sun. So 1 year of our time is equivalent to 1 year of Saturn's time is 30 years of our time. So that's a long time. Jupiter is 12 years. It takes Jupiter 12 years to make its revolution around the sun. So now Jupiter is landing into, it's been in Pisces, right? That started last year. It's moving through the remainder pretty much of this year for the most part. It's going through your financial sector in your chart. It's trying to bring you some money making opportunities that you desperately need. I tell you what, Aquarius has taken quite a hit over the past several years in terms of that. And then you have that restrictive Saturn kind of pushing it on there, and it's like making you put parameters and self-discipline on yourself in so many ways that it constantly feels like you're in a straitjacket. I can imagine over the past year. But you see yourself making headway. And so Jupiter sees you doing this hard work as well too. So you're going to find through this year some lucky breaks are coming through. You already started seeing them last year. I think you got the preview of that last year. But now you're really starting to see it in these things where it's like maybe it's some side hustle. Maybe it's just finally getting compensated for what you deserve. But the thing that comes down to it, I think more than anything, is you starting to understand what you truly deserve, how worthy you really are for these things, the knowledge that you bring to the table, and that you deserve to be paid accordingly for it. Yes. So I think that the opportunities that popped up in 2021, you're going to see that they actually materialize this year because it kind of gave you a preview last year. Now they're actually going to start coming through. So definitely pay attention to that. And what are the expansion of ways that haven't been there? Yes, and that's the thing, right? So the last time that you had this lucky planet in your house of money was in 2009. So dial it back there. and look to see what was happening for you financially then. Were things like, whoa, rocking and rolling? I bet they were, right? But one of the things I want to do as a little caveat here, because Saturn is in your sign and it's going to be there for the remainder of the year, it's about setting boundaries on yourself, some restrictions here and there. Jupiter going through your financial house, I'm telling you what, man, you're going to be getting more credit, bigger credit lines that you necessarily weren't expecting. So just be a little cautious with that, right? Saturn's going to be telling you to rein it in a tiny bit because you could get yourself in some trouble. So just keep an eye out for that. That's the only little situation I got for you there. But you know it. You've already been through it. You've already been through it. You saw where that got you, and then it led to all this other stuff. So just be on the lookout for that. Now the next area we're going to move to, I think because we're talking about money, I think we should look at career, okay? And this will kind of work in tandem with where I want to go with the other area, which deals with home and family. So what happens in astrology, right, is as an astrologer, what we look at is where the eclipses are going to be hitting in someone's chart when we do their chart readings for them. Now, in general, for the Aquarian folks, where the eclipses are going to be happening this year, what the eclipses are, I'm sorry, I didn't even tell you. They draw out the old to bring in new energy. This is where new beginnings are going to be happening. So that's why us astrologers are so focused on that, because we know that there's going to be some shifts happening in these areas in your life for the coming year. So for you, this is going to be happening in career, and it's going to be happening down here in the house of home and family as well. So these eclipse dates, listen to these. We have April 30th, May 16th, October 25th, and November 8th. Now pay attention to what the universe is showing you in this time frame here, because obviously new beginnings are trying to come to you in your career house, life purpose house, same thing, and also down here for home and family as well. So in the coming weeks that lead up to these dates that I just listed here, the universe is going to be like a billboard, man, showing you exactly what has to change in order for these new beginnings to take foot for these areas for you. It's also drawing out some of the old outdated beliefs and outdated things that don't work anymore necessarily as well too, because these eclipses are happening on the axis of Taurus and Scorpio, and it asks us to look at what we truly value and surrender what we don't, and surrender the old things that maybe we did value that we find are holding us back. So let's use a great example here. So Aquarians really love their independence. You're the sign that deals with social, being mindful of society, but you're also the lone wolf that doesn't want to depend on anybody, which I always found was such an interesting dichotomy in itself. But let's use that for example here, right? Let's say that maybe the independence, got a little bit to you there. And maybe you valued independence a little bit too much, and then you're finding where that kind of worked against you over the years, right? Going it alone, being the lone wolf maybe didn't work. Maybe this is where you start to realize in these eclipses that you don't value that as much. Maybe you value community more. Maybe you're starting to value the input and the help of others, and where you don't have to go it alone. So you surrender the going it alone aspect so that you can move yourself ahead. That's just one example. There can be multiple ways that this works for you, but you're finding where you are worth more, that you deserve more. That's a better wording. Let's say that you deserve more, but it's going to have to be understanding what it is you do value now and what you got to let go of, right? That's what we're doing here. And then that also works in the house of home and family over here, right? Because these eclipses are happening over here, but what's happening in your career directly impacts your home life, right? I know you've learned those lessons, but here it is happening again. So especially the April 30th one, it's going to foreshadow this letting go of the past, right? Really, really letting go of the past. But I'm also looking at that as letting go of outdated beliefs and values that were incorporated and imprinted on you in childhood home that don't necessarily fit into the home and family dynamic that you want now. You're seeing what has to be let go of so that you can make your home and family life more fitting for who you are now. And also in that fourth house At the same time, you have an 80-year cycle of Uranus that's been moving through Taurus as well in there. That's a huge one, right? It radically has shaken up your house of home and family through some unexpected events. These things started in 2018 and it's going to continue through 2025, and some of the events can be very discombobulating. This could be divorce, this could be a loss, this could be a death of a family member, this could be moving across country. There's so many different things that can happen with Uranus, but they come on quickly and they're things that you didn't necessarily expect, right? And as it does that, keep that in mind too, that if some things pop up in this time frame and they are unexpected and they are uncomfortable, that they're ultimately trying to bring you something that's more fitting for who you are, right? I know it sounds easier said than done, but you'll definitely find that that you're going to have more clarity, I think is the best word for that. You're going to have more clarity on what does need to be released and what needs to be done to move forward as well. So let's move on next to love and relationships. Not a whole ton happening there. I think more, like I said, this is a year of just focusing on yourself and getting yourself established more than anything as a main concern. But there are going to be some Mercury retrogrades happening in the summertime in June, and the fast moving planets are going to be the ones that always move through this sector, are going to be moving through, in the summertime for you, really shining a light on those areas. The Mercury retrograde happening in that area too is just going to have you looking to the past with how you have communicated to your partner, communicated to your it's not even just romantic relationships. This can also be business partnerships as well, and friendships as well. Just maybe communicating better, maybe looking to the past with how these relationships have worked and where communication could have been utilized in a better way to get your needs met, right? So I think it's more about that, looking to how relationships have worked in the past. But I tell you what, I'm more concerned about home and family and career, and that eclipse that happens May 16th and October 25th. I'm telling you, there's going to be some pretty major shifts that happen in those areas for you. It's also the house of our reputation as well too. So if some events happened that weren't expected, that maybe made a ding happen to your reputation, so maybe it was a legal situation, maybe it was a divorce, maybe some things that got brought out into the light of the day for community to see that you didn't want to see, you'll be finding that with these eclipses, it helps to repair that image, right? Or maybe if you're in a situation where you've been avoiding some things, maybe this is a year where those eclipses bring that out to the light of day as well too. So regardless, shift and change is happening there, regardless, right? In a way that hasn't since 2012, 2011, in that time frame, some big things. So another thing too is that Jupiter is going to be moving through your ninth house of expansion and travel, and you might find that this is a year where you're traveling a little bit more. And I know that's like, obviously some restrictions will probably be happening regardless, but pandemic or not, Jupiter was going to start moving through your house of travel and learning anyway, regardless this year. So that is great in a lot of ways to bring some happiness and fulfillment and understanding of who you are and what you want. But it's also the house of learning. So it wouldn't surprise me if you decide to go back to school, maybe just take a couple classes, take an online course, learn some new things. I think there's a lot that can be learned that will help to grow and expand you and push you outside of those limitations that you've found yourself in moving forward. So now let's look at specific birthdays. Okay, these are going to be events that are happening astrologically for certain birthdays. If you want to dig in a little bit deeper about your specific birth chart and how these energies are impacting you specifically, I have a link below. You can reach out for a reading and we can go over your chart specifically. But in general, these are the ones for our Aquarian folks. Now, keep in mind, Aquarius, that new moons are always a time to put your manifestation out there. Your Aquarius new moon is going to be happening on February 1st. Any new intentions that you have, any new beginnings you want to see, this is going to be your strongest time frame in the year to do it. And then the Aquarius full moon that happens is going to be August 11th. So you may be finding that's when it's going to be the surrendering and releasing time. Emotions are running high at that time and things that need to be let go. But in general, my Aquarian friends, if you find yourself in a birthday that is from January 20th until January 29th, that lucky Jupiter is going to be working so good with you this year, bringing those opportunities, pushing you out of your comfort zone, getting you out of those self-limiting boundaries and beliefs, and really growing, expanding you, and having you look at the bigger picture, right? And the more that you look at the bigger picture of your life as opposed to those fine details, when you look at the bigger picture, the opportunities are going to be coming in for you a little bit stronger. If you have a birthday between January 31st and February 8th, Uranus is going to be squaring up against your sun. So this is definitely going to be a year where your ruling planet Uranus is going to be making you feel electrified from the inside out to make some changes and to be liberated and freed in a lot of ways. Of course, that's going to be good if you found yourself limited and unable to make changes. But if you've been a rebel and getting yourself in trouble, I could see where this is a year where Uranus might unexpectedly throw some things at you to kind of rein it in. But for the most part, I'm looking at this as life bringing you some unexpected events, maybe some uncomfortable events, right? But they're asking you to embrace change. Embrace, you know what? No. Embrace uncertainty, I think, is more the thing. There's going to be some uncertain events, right, that come up, and they're asking you to kind of act in the moment and to trust in the moment. And as you do, some wonderful things can come as a result, right? But it's ultimately pushing you to be just a true, authentic version of yourself and to be more clear and aware of who you are and where you are moving on your path. If your birthday falls between February 1st and February 15th, Saturn is going to be aligning with your sun. So that planet of restriction is definitely going to be on there. The weight of responsibility will be on your shoulders a little bit more. I think you're going to be more focused on long-term planning this year, coming up with some better plans to make the foundations under your feet stronger. I really feel very strongly that you have to start setting boundaries with others as well too, because I think there might be people that get into your path that sidetrack you and have you more focused on their agenda as opposed to what's for the better good of you. So putting some boundaries in place are going to be really, really vital for you in 2022. But also putting boundaries on yourself and limitation on yourself as well too, I think you're going to find are going to be very, very helpful, because you are entering a cycle now of maturing. It's a 30-year cycle that is coming to a close this year. So you're growing and maturing yourself in a lot of ways that comes as a direct result of limiting circumstances and having to set some parameters around you, right? Good things come as a result. So my Aquarian friends, I'm going to pull a card just as like general outlook, right? Like just a general one-word thing, you know, a one-word outlook that these angels want you to be aware of for the coming year. And your angel is Archangel Uriel, known as the psychologist angel, brings through brilliant flashes of insight, because by golly, I tell you what, you Aquarians have the coolest ideas that come out of nowhere, and it's Uriel that brings those through. And he brings you through brilliant solutions, right, when you find yourself stuck. So you find yourself stuck with these things that Saturn, is limiting you. And maybe Jupiter's trying to expand you and push you and make you make these split-second decisions. Uriel is going to be the angel that helps you weigh out the pros and the cons and will bring through that insight when you need it, okay? Sometimes we try to get a plan around so well that we confuse ourselves, and we got to trust that we'll know what to do when that moment appears, and he's the angel that helps us to do that and to make those decisions. So I'm calling on Uriel right now to help us know what this year has. Oh my gosh, that card basically jumped right out. OMG, all that glitters is not gold. I tell you what, Aquarian friends, you know, and that's the thing, you represent friendship in astrology, and I think you may find that this is a year where you're finding that there's been some masks that people are wearing. Maybe you're the one wearing the mask, right? And it's ready to come off and you don't want to do it anymore. But you're starting to find that some of these situations from the past that looked wonderful maybe aren't as great as they are, and it's time to let them go, right? There are opportunities. I know that it says all that glitters isn't gold, but the way I'm looking at it right here, and especially because there's an angel and some birds that are flying in here and this radiant light, that's what Uriel is, this golden yellow beautiful radiant light, that when we're able to see beyond the facade, that we are able to actually see the real true opportunities that are there and the wealth that is there for us. So keep that in mind in this moving year as you're moving ahead, that when certain things pop up or insights come through, as Uriel will tell you, like this person isn't trustworthy, or maybe this opportunity, you need to jump on it. Really listen and trust in there, right? Because there is some amazing things that are coming through, but you might also be tested with some of these things that aren't necessarily in your highest and best as well, too. But there is gold there waiting, and we know it is, especially in career. So, Aquarius, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful and blessed new year.